All right, and we're back once again with the Pop Culture Cosmos. It's Gerald Glassford coming right back at you here from Pop Culture Cosmos. Cannot thank everyone enough for listening to all of our great shows. And I'll tell you what, we talk about him on our previous program, and he's back again. He appears. He must have heard me talking about him on our previous program, but he's back again. He is the world famous director. Well, at least I hope he's world famous for all these great projects that you can see now at robmccallumfilms.com. He's doing the little bit of right now, the Dwayne The Rock Johnson type deal with his eyebrows. But you can catch all the great shows, then all the great docu-series, all the great movies that he has available already at robmccallumfilms.com. Plus also, he's got not one, not two, but three great projects on the way. Well, at least the ones that I know of. I'm probably losing track here. But that would include Box Art, the docu-series, also as well Action Figure Adventure, and a new one which I was just made aware of not too long ago, that is getting more acclaim, that is getting more widespread notoriety, more interest for altogether different reasons, and that is the Mr. Dressup documentary. And it is the documan himself that I know, my good friend, Mr. Rob McCallum. What's up, man?
Well, first, I'm worried about what you've said in previous episodes to conjure me at this point. Usually, it's like the Beetlejuice effect. You must have said my name 3 times, and now here I am. You've unleashed me for what is sure to be an arguable experience.
It always is when you're here. But you know why I mentioned your name is because, well, you know why. We and I were
I don't
talking about
know.
it social media earlier today. It was basically what we debuted on the Friday program, which was the Snyder Cut being released. Which,
Ah,
your opinions are different from mine on Justice League, and I basically said that on
yeah,
the
it's
show.
awful.
Yeah, you thought it was awful. I thought it was eh, and you ripped me apart
Which is pretty
for.
much, if it's not great, if it's not yay, it's blah.
Okay, well, I thought it was eh. You could say blah.
Nah.
I can say eh. Okay, we'll rate it. That's the way we rate. That'd be a great show to do. Is what was your score today, Rob? Blah. What was yours, Gerald? Eh. But what can I say?
I think I'm on day 82 of isolation. Everything right now is a little bit blah.
Okay, fair enough, fair enough. But you are being a good man, staying at home and all that. One of the things I wanted to ask you, of course, was about your great show, your great docu series, your documentary that's coming out, Mister Dress Up documentary. But before I do, that's the big prize right there for you because that's the one that's
Oh,
gaining
that's
the
a little
most
tease.
notoriety. Yes, a little
Okay.
tease. How's Box Art the docu series doing?
It's great. First of all, there's a lot of things going on. You've dropped the URL robmccallumfilms.com, and see, this is how long it's been since you and I have actually talked. Because if you were to go to robmccallumfilms.com, you would not find robmccallumfilms.com. In
What would
fact,
I find?
you'd be redirected to another site, to another shingle that I'm housing everything under now, and that's part of Zero Cool Films, which is the brand that I'm building with Justin Schoenrock, that houses some of the productions that we're talking about now. So everything is being kind of moved under one banner, so to speak, because I've got a first look deal, as they say in the business, with Zero Cool Films. So they will be, at least in one capacity, the U.S. distribution part of my films and television series that I'm creating and producing. So that's the first point. Now, to your actual question about video game box art, the stories behind the covers, the exciting docu-series that examines video game cover art, there's lots going on. We have signed distribution papers for a lot of cool things to happen, but I can't say who has taken on the licensing for it just yet. I know, it's not my call.
You're
It's
the
not me,
ultimate tease,
Gerald.
man. You're the ultimate tease. I'm telling you.
It's not me. The company that did take it on has also took on Action Figure Adventure outside of Canada. And again, I can't say anything. All I can say is that these are good people from everything we can tell. We had a really great in-person meeting with them, and they get the pop culture space very much. So we're excited to have not one, not two, but actually three projects with them because they've also taken the rights to the Kitty concert doc film that I made as well that shows the reunion. So again, Gerald, we haven't talked for a while, but lots of things are happening. They're brewing, baby. It's hot in here.
Hey, I
So,
still run the ad for Kitty every now and then. So
well,
there you go.
Every now and then it gets out there, which is on Tubi now, by the way. If people want to check it out for free, they can check out that documentary and see what's what in the world of Kitty and how that band came to be. Yeah, so box art is good. We're going to get a massive push and a lot more people are going to see it. So it's not available right now, depending on when you're listening to this awesome interview. If this is a legacy listen, it could be available. I would search out video game box art and see if you can find it.
Well, you can find it today or more information about it at Zero Cool Films. You mentioned it on a couple of your ads, but I wasn't sure exactly what goes into it. I know Rob McCallum Films was something that was very much a part of your life and something that you created, and now you're transitioning into Zero Cool Films. So what's that transition
Well,
been like?
yes and no. I mean, online on Facebook, I'll still be Rob McCallum Films because those are the films and series created by me. It's more colloquial than to say Pyre Productions because people don't necessarily make the connection. So I said, Rob McCallum Films. You want to search for a film by Rob McCallum? Boom, there it is. It picks up. So on a casual social front, I'm out there still on social media that way. But Zero Cool Films is the new initiative, the new Shingle, the boutique production company in which we're doing a little bit more series. Again, all about fandom, the human heart stories, everything that I've come to know of, but just partnering with people to make everything as good as it possibly can be instead of taking it all on by myself and piecemealing it together.
Gee, that's a switch for you because you love taking it
It's
all on by yourself.
It's very uncomfortable for me to play with others. I'm the lone wolf, but alas, I have to play with other people too.
All right. Well, like I said, it's something that I know you're not very used to, as far as
Yeah, well, I mean, there have been instances where I play with other people. Power of Grayskull, the film that you rated so highly and admire so much,
yes,
was a collaboration effort.
Missing
Mom, I collaborated with Jordan, even though it was a little bit more me doing all the production on it and whatnot. But I play with others from time to time. So this is a little bit of a stab in that direction to see if we can make it stick, and we've got some good options in that path already.
Well, there's also Action Figure Adventure, which I know is something that is near and dear to your heart. As I'm looking right behind yourself, you seeing all that on the wall right there, as far as the action figures are concerned.
Yes, an Action Figure Adventure does hail from Zero Cool as well, so this is definitely one of those properties. It's a bit of a spiritual successor to Nintendo Quest, as you know, and it features our mutually good collaborative friend, Mr. Jay Bartlett, who's on a quest to create the ultimate action figure auction, all in the name of charity. So he's fronting the cash and then goes, around the entire country and beyond to see what kind of cool action figures he can get to put into this charity auction. And I don't know if you caught our live stream yesterday, Gerald, but we just had big news about it because, of course, we were planning this big, in-person hubbub event to do with all these people, and we're going to give them paddles and we're going to have an auctioneer. But then this thing happened in the world that kind of discourages people from being close to one another. So we had to figure out alternative arrangements. And so we decided that we're going to do this as a big online broadcast event akin to a sports draft or an award show where we'll have a host and a panel of analysts breaking down every item that comes up with the auctions pre-timed and set up about a week before. And you basically get to join the live broadcast as the time ticks down on the 10 key items that Jay has sought out for this auction, and you too can bid on them, and we'll obviously share some information with you and our listeners when we get it locked down a bit more. But August 13th, 8 p.m., 7 Central is the time to check it out on the East Coast, and obviously do the math on the West Coast, 5 p.m. Some of these items could be yours, and then you get to have this, and then you can watch the series and see the story behind the item itself. How great is that?
That's awesome.
You get to be the next chapter.
It could be the next chapter. How's he been doing, by the way? I see his videos all the time on the Jay Bartlett YouTube channel, talking about a lot of different things, including, obviously, action figures and whatnot. So how's he been doing? How's he been taking in all this as compared to what he was dealing with Nintendo Quest? Because Nintendo Quest, you had
It's
the Power Tour, and you guys went around the country, and you guys were going ahead and you know doing all that to promote the film. It's been different this time around.
it's been very different. I mean, the first big thing is that we were able to enter into a pre-buy situation before we had finished cutting much of it. We basically finished our trailer in December and sold it to Super Channel Jinx Esports TV up in Canada for the broadcast rights. And then, like I said, we have already negotiated the rest of the world with another distributor, whom we can't name, but you'll be excited to hear when we can for that. And so we're finishing it up. It's a completely different thing. We don't have to have as many boots to the ground, although we did have big plans to appear at certain cons that obviously have been shelved. And so we can't say too much about that because the plans are over now, but we did have plans to make some, trips around, and of course we would have filmed those trips and shown some episodes and got some reaction, and it's what we do. It's what we do. It's who we are.
But it's just good to hear from both of you. I see him doing very well. He looks happy now. He looks happy just going ahead and showing off all of his wares on his YouTube channel. And it's always good to see Jay in a good place.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I haven't talked to him too much just because I've been busy trying to get the series done.
What are the odds of that?
It's tough. Lots of stuff to do. I mean, I will say Jay has seen every episode so far. There's 10 episodes to the series. Obviously, episode 10 isn't finished because the auction has yet to happen. Mm-hmm. But he's seen it all. Jay likes it. It's not the most objective opinion. I like it. Again, not so objective. But more importantly, our broadcaster went over the moon for what we were able to create for them. And, we're going to explore what we can do in the future with the same people, because now that marks our third series with them. They've taken Nintendo Quest and Box Art and now this. So, it's a good fit for us. We like working with them, and now we'll see what we can do next. But yeah, Action Figure Adventure is going very well. We're doing the polish layer, adding all our high-end graphics and bio little graphics to the different toys that we look at, so everybody knows what we're talking about, and breaking down the store so everybody understands the layout, and just really putting that layer of polish and sheen on it. And over here, what you can't see is I'm doing all the legal paperwork, and I had forgotten what time it was and kind of that we were doing this today, so I unfortunately had to step away from that legal nightmare to have a chat with you, but that's okay.
Legal it's all about legal, and when I talk to you at various points in times about your projects, it always seems to be at some point in the line when it concerns something legal.
Yeah, it's the last step before picture lock. We got to make sure that we're legally doing everything A-okay, and so far so good, and we'll just make sure that we can get through all 10 episodes without doing anything improperly or gratuitously is more the case.
There you go. Well, once again, I'm talking to my good friend, Rob McCallum. You can check out a lot of what he's doing and a lot of what he's done at ZeroCoolFilms.com, which I just actually have right up here on one of my other tabs. So it is something that you go ahead and check out today. His entire listing of all of his great stuff that he has available at ZeroCoolFilms.com. But obviously
I should say it's not quite live yet.
Well, I'm looking at it right now. Seems kind of live to me.
Oh yeah, well, that's interesting.
Okay, I see I see Leonardo there. It looks pretty good. See stuff like that. See films.
Maybe the guys flipped the switch and I didn't know about it. Well, there you go. Yeah, I'll have to talk to them about that.
Yeah, see, there's stuff right there popping up. Missing Mom, the Kitty documentary, Power of Grayskull. It's all right there.
Well, I know the stuff is there. I'm just waiting for it. Oh, okay, there you go. Yeah, hey, look, there's stuff happening.
Stuff is happening indeed. It's right there for you. It says
see what happens when you delve into the world of collaboration. People actually do the work. This is weird.
This is weird indeed. I'm telling you.
This is looking pretty good here. These guys have done a pretty good job. I like that.
They have. It's really nice and slick looking. I think people should check it out at ZeroCoolFilms.com. But the main event for today is something that I have had yet to speak to you about, but I've been watching from afar, and I'm noticing that you are getting more interest on this project than any other, including Nintendo Quest, including Missing Mom. And I was actually asking you over DM, and you were telling me that you've gotten more interest in this project than any other combined. So, all your stuff combined, basically. So, I want to hear your thoughts on exactly why the Mr. Dressup documentary is getting so much notoriety and acclaim.
Well, I mean, you've got to know what Mr. Dressup is first of
Exactly.
all,
So,
and
enlighten me.
uh, I will. I'm about to. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, here I go.
Okay.
The Enlightenment, the Age of Enlightenment has begun.
Okay.
Mr. Dressup is a preschool kids program in Canada that aired from 1967 to 1996, and then an additional 10 years in reruns. He's essentially, people kind of compare him to Mr. Rogers, but the Canadian version. And funny enough, they were best friends, and Mr. Dressup is the titular character portrayed by Ernie Coombs, who studied under Fred Rogers and worked on Mr. Rogers' Children's Corner show. And Mr. Rogers originally came to Canada to do a show just called Mr. Rogers, and then he eventually left and returned to Pittsburgh to do Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Um, so that's kind of where Ernie Coombs comes from, and because it was on for such a long time in Canada, it's kind of like as loved as hockey is in Canada. It's just a really big deal. Everybody knows Mr. Dressup. It impacted more than 5 generations, and it's all about imaginative play. So the staple of every program would be a story that Mr. Dressup acts out, and he would go into the tickle trunk, which was like a bottomless Mary Poppins like idea where he would reach into the tickle trunk and pull out whatever costume was in there and then tell a story, whether it's Jack and the Beanstalk or Billy Goat's Gruff or any number of things.
Hmm.
And so that would be the staple segment that would always close out the narrative. He was an excellent artist and illustrator, so you'd sometimes see him at the drawing board drawing things, and there'd be some games that he'd play while drawing a picture, or he would create crafts out of simple household objects. And sometimes he would just read a story. And he had some puppet companions as well, and of course I love puppetry. So instantly hooked as a kid. I think what makes it work as a show is that it's the ultimate child fantasy. It's basically a loving parent spending, uninterrupted time with a child, which is the puppet in this case. And it's everything any child would ever want, whether it's now or then. It doesn't matter. Every kid just wants their dad or their mom's uninterrupted attention, where you're playing with them on their level, and that's what that show represents. It's very mindful, it's thoughtful, it's kind, it's humble, it's humorous, it's silly, but it's still respectful. And for Canada, it is a massive deal. And so, why is it going over like gangbusters? I mean, a lot of it is because Mr. Rogers has had so much attention in recent years between the two films that came out, the documentary and the narrative. And so everybody in Canada instantly, because of the comparison, said, well, where's the Mr. Dressup documentary? And so, like I've been doing as of late, we have been producing this and shooting this for the last year kind of in secret. And so when the Tom Hanks film came out, everybody was like, oh, where's the Mr. Dressup thing? I was thinking, oh my God, I want to say something so bad because everybody's going to go nuts. And sure enough, when we were able to announce it and kind of, take the lid off the can of secrecy, everybody has been embracing it very, very, very well. I mean, to see how crazy people are going on Facebook is just mind blowing on its own, let alone what it's like talking to some of these people and interacting with some of these people. So it's going over really well.
Well, when you go, and let's say you were out on the streets in the U.S., and you were to talk to someone and describe to them the popularity of Mr. Dressup in Canada, because as someone who grew up in Canada, he's obviously the icon that you know and you're familiar with from your childhood. How important was he to your culture?
Oh, he's everything. He is the preschool show for kids. I mean, there are a handful of others, and Sesame Street would be one of them. But Mr. Dressup is the show. You go from Mr. Dressup to Hockey Night in Canada. That's it. That's the only transition. That's all there is. That's Canada. Like that's how it is. It is everything. You know.
From Mr. Dressup to guys fighting with their, in their jerseys, and then checking into the boards and all that. That's kind of funny the transition. But yes, there's more to do in Canada than just Mr. Dressup and hockey. Come on, man. Come
There's
on.
maple syrup as well.
Oh, come on. Your country is an awesome country, my friend. My wife has enjoyed her time there. You guys got a lot more going on than just those three things.
Well, maybe. But you know what? It's easy to stick to the three. Our international comrades understand the three, and we don't need to go beyond. The rest is our secret.
Now, do you go into the background which you described already? As far as learning and I don't want to say an under. Would you say it classified as an understudy to Mister Rogers early on, or would you
Yeah,
describe it as
of
something
course.
more?
He came up literally as his assistant, and a collaborator. So it was very much, learning the same kind of things: the direct address to camera, the calm tone, the treating kids as an individual. A lot of the same ideals go through it. Whereas Mr. Rogers has a little bit more of a religious take, Mr. Dressup does not. And where Mr. Rogers will discuss things going on in real life, like assassination or war or divorce, Mr. Dressup is much more about imaginative play. It's
So
all
he
about the
would.
world of make believe. And where Mr. Rogers, you go on the trolley and leave our world to go to King Friday and whatnot, the imagination is all around us with Mr. Dressup, whether it's the craft we're creating, the picture we're drawing, or the clothes we're putting on to dress up.
So he wouldn't touch on those issues. Because that's
No,
something that a lot
they
of
weren't
people are
part of
familiar
it.
with from Mr. Rogers. Okay, so he was just like you said. When you watch Mr. Dressup, you're just going into that world and learning about that, and not going ahead and touching on a lot of real modern day components at that point in time.
That's right. It's a lot of people described it as their safe place as a kid. Their parents or other stuff in their life weren't so great, but for that half hour every morning, that was a safe place for a kid to feel okay and let their guard down. So we definitely go into like the early history where each of the key performers and creators came from and what that was like, and how Mr. Dressup was actually a spin-off show from a much bigger show called Butternut Square that featured four human characters, with Mr. Dressup being one of them, and then budget cuts reduced, to half a set or half a studio space with just Mr. Dressup and just the puppets that were ported over from the bigger show. But that first show, Butternut Square, that Dressup first appeared in, was created at the suggestion of Fred Rogers, saying, "Hey, Ernie's going to stay here. Why not do a show around his talents?" So
Okay. Was it educational? Was there anything you to learn? Because obviously some of those components with Sesame Street and Mister Rogers was at some point in time, it would teach the kids the value of this component or of this, not to do this or do this instead. Is there some of that component, or was there some of that component in Mister Dressup?
Not really. I mean, it was more education through play and like character resolution and understanding conflicts, just through play and normal storytelling. Nothing so heavy-handed as to what did you learn today, or here's how we do this. It was always like beneath the surface, or between the lines, where the educational component would come in. Or sometimes they would like get a video postcard, or they'd have to look at the video scope and see what it was like in the North Pole, and it would be like documentary stock footage that they had the rights to, but it wasn't like an educational dissertation on what the Arctic was like. It was like, oh, look, there's a polar bear and there's some penguins, and essentially you're learning about what life is like in the Arctic, but it's not like, here now we're going to learn about this.
Okay. Or not like, okay, today's letter is the letter E or anything like that.
Nothing so heavy-handed at all.
Okay. But
I
that's
mean,
probably
it might be like, he would draw like four things on his drawing board, and you'd have to figure out what they had in common, and they could be animals that all start with the letter C.
okay. But that's probably why it became more enjoyable to you guys and gals as Canadians.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. It certainly embodied the show embodied everything people would know Canadians for on an international stage: a sense of humor, a sense of play, resourcefulness, the ability to be humble, and just happy with their surroundings.
And what stage of production is it in right now?
Well, the pandemic has put a pause on the little bit of shooting we have left to do, but we're delving into post production. I a little bit ahead of schedule, but we've shot a lot. I think we've shot about 35 different interviews, and post production will include some graphic work that we have to still nail down and figure out. But yeah, we're mainly in post production with a little bit left, I guess, of production whenever that's safe to resume or resume in a modified capacity.
But it has gone over like gangbusters. Has it been everything you thought it would be as far as the initial interest and more, or has it been something that you've been not too surprised about?
A little bit of both. I mean, I know how big Mr. Dressup is, right? Like every day, every time we'd meet somebody, to be able to just sit and talk about the show from a different perspective or learn different things about it has been that dream come true. But to actually see it and it go from, wow, I think people are going to be blown away by this and excited by it in Canada, to like, wow, people are excited by this. And we've got a lot of distribution options, is the easiest way to say, on levels that we never thought we'd have with any of our projects because of the way the world is. But Mr. Dressup is proving the exception to that rule. So we're looking at theatrical opportunities, festival opportunities, like broadcast opportunities, in addition to home video and streaming. So all of those conversations are at different stages to try to make happen. But the fact that we're doing a Mr. Dressup documentary with the blessing of his children and everybody else that's been on board, which are a lot of the key people that wouldn't do it for anybody else that's tried to do this kind of thing, it's a big deal. We've gotten further than anybody else that has ever tried to do something like this. And it's the best part is, I think, this isn't just like a look behind the curtain, or behind the scenes of how the show was created and who was part of it and what their obstacles were. That's certainly a big part of it. But there's a really poignant, timely story that we're telling about these shows of our past and why they matter, and why they matter now.
Okay, and hopefully this will be able to not only enlighten everyone in Canada, in your great country, about someone that many kids and many adults are very familiar with already, but is your hope obviously to educate the world more about this wonderful series that took place for so many years?
Yeah, I mean, I think the chief thing is to make sure that all of Canada doesn't forget about Mr. Dressup, and that they always hold him true, because it hasn't been available to watch, say, 5 to 10 episodes on YouTube that are legally there in their full runtime. Anybody under 30 doesn't know who Mr. Dressup is. So what happens to a culture when they don't have access to these staple shows that have built the society that has come before them? These texts. Imagine like going into a library, and like the most popular books, the most influential books are suddenly not there. What's that next person that walks in going to pick up and read and learn like everybody else if that stuff isn't there? So it's a pretty interesting thing to explore, of cultural heritage and access and whatnot. So I mean, hey, Sesame Street did a great thing. They donated their whole library to the Library of Congress. Every episode of Sesame Street, except for the new ones who have been on a time delay because of HBO and Warner Brothers, is accessible, which is awesome. And I think if you look at any country in the world that has had, government-funded produced programming, you'll find the sad story that this stuff doesn't last forever. One of my favorite sayings is, film lasts forever, or film is forever. So no matter what happens, it's always out there. That's not the case, as we're starting to see. So chief goals would be make sure that everybody remembers Mr. Dressup and what that show represented, and the themes and ideals of it, and to carry it forward.
Well, I hope so, my friend. I wish you all the best with that. Once again, it's the Mr. Dressup documentary coming soon from our friends at Zero Cool Films, and you can find out more at zerocoolfilms.com. Coming up soon, right?
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, you guess. I don't know.
We're hoping that everything wraps up by the end of the year and that it's available shortly thereafter. Okay. Probably early next year for it to be available.
I'm hoping so, my friend, because that's something I want to be more educated about, and as a great representative of the show, and a reminder to everyone out there how special it is to many Canadians. It's a great way to educate them around the world about Mr. Dressup and the kind of love that obviously he had for Canadians and the Canadians had for him. So it's just something that I think a lot of people will be interested to see, because they're, like myself, before you mentioned it, I was one of those individuals that had no idea about the show because I had been so sheltered with Mr. Rogers and Sesame Street.
Well, and both of those, entities will play a heavy role in this too. So you'll have some touchstones and some points of view that you'll be able to relate to. Sesame Street coming out in '69, everybody in America knew what a big deal that was. But how is that ripple effect felt in Canada to shows like Mr. Dressup? So we talk about that, of course.
Well, all right, my friend. A lot is on your plate, as always, and I know that's the way you like it best. So.
Well, it's the way that it is.
That's the way that it is. So before you get back to all that legal paperwork that's right beside you right there, once again, best way to get a hold of you. Anybody has any questions, wants to know more about what's going on with you, Zero Cool Films, Rob McCallum, and all that great stuff right there for you. So where can people find out more about what's going on in your world?
Well, if you want to follow the progress of everything with our Mr. Dressup documentary, it's only really on Facebook right now because that's our target demographic, the Facebookers. So facebook.com/Mr. Dressup documentary. That isn't the title; it's a temp title. We've got a better title cooked up, but this is what we're leading with. So facebook.com/Mr. Dressup documentary. And if you're trying to get a hold of me, just search out Rob McCallum Films on Facebook, and I'm also on Twitter @RobMcZob.
No TikTok yet?
I thought about it, and then I said, I'm good.
So, that's the same thing I said, but I don't know. I may actually lean in and think about doing some TikTok at some point in time. Not the dances per se.
I'll do TikTok when you start carrying bricks up the stairs for me again.
It's cinder blocks, I thought.
Yeah, whatever.
Okay, whatever, indeed. Once again, it's my good friend Rob McCallum. You got to check out what he's doing today on Facebook, but also as well, zerocoolfilms.com. It looks pretty. It looks, pretty slick there, my friend. Yeah, it's just really just some good stuff happening right there at Zero Cool Films. So I'm happy for you.
I'm glad we got to see it together.
Exactly, just right there for you. But it's just awesome to see what you're doing, and I appreciate the updates so much. Any pop culture stuff you want to talk about before we head on out? I mean, you were talking about this morning.
Sure. Where do you stand on all these films coming out for rental for like $20 or $25, or not the option to buy on the digital platforms because of the theatrical experience? Do you think we're going to have theaters in the future?
At some point in time, they're going to be reduced. I mean, obviously, this pandemic may speed up that process, but it looks like it's going to be something that's here to stay, despite what AMC and the theater chains that are trying to fight back against Universal for starting it in the first place with Trolls World Tour. It's something that we're going to go ahead and see. Scoob has played very well. I mean, it's something that's been very popular. The Lovebirds
we
just
got it
came
day
out.
one.
Yep. So, I mean,
we bought Scoob. I mean, Scoob was $25 to buy or $19 to rent. And look, I know we're going to watch it more than once, so I couldn't be pinned into the rental window. And the same thing would have happened with Trolls if they would have opened it up for a purchase.
It's just we're learning more and more about how to utilize that marketplace, and it's going to become even more and more popular. I mean, like I said, we're seeing the Lovebirds. What's the announcement today that the Steve Carell movie that just came out is going to come out on digital, and there's more and more movies that were intended for theatrical release. They're just going to be heading to a digital format. I think it's just I don't want to say it's going to be the definitive
what
way to
the
go.
Theater plans are, right? Like in July, starting with 10 or whatever you want to call Chris Nolan's film.
Yeah. Which
they're
looks awesome,
saying
by the way.
They want people 6 seats apart, left and right, and then nobody's going to be in front or behind.
Something like 25% capacity, I think it equates out to.
Something like that. But how do you do that with a family when you can only have a maximum of 2 or 3 chairs together?
Yeah.
You've got a family of 4 and you've got 3 chairs together. Where's that 4th person going to sit? Plus, kids are eating popcorn with their hands and putting it on the seats and stuff. It's not going to happen for families. And that 4-quadrant money that they get from these big tent poles that summer fuel revenue just is not going to be there this year, and it's going to change perceptions, and maybe people will relate it to like a pre-Napster, post-Napster kind of conversion in the music side of things. We're not going back to the theatrical experience the way it was. It's going to be reserved for the ultimate like Star Wars-like films or the Infinity War-like film experiences, and that's it.
That's going to be on less theaters.
Yeah, exactly. So people are going to have to pay that premium to get it, and I think you're going to see the premium just trickle down. You'll be able to go for the, $15 a ticket or whatever it is to the theater. But if you want it at home, it'll probably be like a 3 to 4 week delay, and you'll be spending, instead of $20 when it used to come out, or $14.99, you're going to be spending 25 to $30 for that copy because the window's going to collapse.
Yeah, that is something that I think we're going to be able to see pretty soon as well. So we're already seeing a little bit of that already, but you're right. This time next year and the years beyond, I think this coronavirus is ultimately going to change the way we view films as a whole. I see it. I just don't think it's going to be ever the same once again.
I think it's the ultimate nail in the coffin. I mean, for the last 20 years, really since the dawn of HBO, turn of the century, when TV started getting amazing and people really liked the long-form storytelling, serialized shows, where we're just gobbling it up in binge television, took it up a notch, when Netflix really started to hit its stride in 2012 or so. Like, this just keeps furthering the need not to go to a theater and spend all that money on overpriced food, or that experience with some guy talking behind you, or their cell phone lit up in front of you. The content is at home already. I mean, I've already subscribed to Apple TV Plus. Like, that should tell you everything.
Well, as you once said, and as you say on our promo, Apple could change the way we view our television and our films, for that matter. So.
Yep, they could.
Yes. As the promo always tells me when I play it. So.
I'm sure it does.
Yes, it did create that paradigm shift, as I think the famous words that you said on that promo. So.
Oh, okay. Sure.
Yeah. But there's still a lot. What about HBO Max? Are you excited for HBO Max?
It won't be available in Canada, so no.
Oh, then there you go.
There's a.
They keep shutting you out, man. What's up with that?
It will be available in Canada, but it won't be the same access. So, like in Canada, we don't have HBO now. All of HBO's program has been carried over to Crave, which is like a Bell Media conglomerate. So you subscribe to Crave for $100 a year, and you get all the HBO stuff.
Okay.
On top of like all their originals.
Wow, that's yeah. They just never give you the same love that they should. What's up with that?
You know what? We're on the metric system, and we're paying for it every day.
Okay, my friend. Well, I'll tell you what. It's just been great talking to you as always. Once again, is Rob McCallum, the director of the Mr. Dressup documentary, also Box Art, the docuseries. Don't forget the Kitty documentary and Action Figure Adventure. He's got so much that you can check out now at zerocoolfilms.com. Don't forget Missing Mom. You're still getting great reviews on that one as well.
I'm still getting the reviews.
Yes. People are still making their stories, or they're telling you all their great thoughts on it.
I haven't looked. You know the first rule of the internet, right? Don't read the comments.
There you go. Well, a lot of the comments that I see are still very awesome on that film as well. So
good.
I tell you what, it's just so great to hear from you, my friend. Any last thoughts on the way out?
Goodbye.
Goodbye, indeed. It is Rob McCallum. You got to check out everything that he's doing today at zerocoolfilms.com, or just type in Rob McCallum on Facebook, and you'll be able to see all the different things that he's doing out there. In fact, he's doing some live videos every now and then, so as he gives you updates on all of his projects. So check it out today at Rob McCallum Films on Rob McCallum on Facebook. Can't say Rob McCallum Films anymore.
Well, you can, but that's not where you go check it out. I know. It's getting so confusing on how to find me. I'm just trying to get away from people.
It's becoming dated. I'm going to have to change all my ads.
Yeah, we're going to have to get a Zero Cool ad for you somehow.
Well, you did mention Zero Cool on one of them, so that's good.
Oh, good.
Yes, there you go. Well, Rob, it's just been great talking to you as always. Always love catching up with you, and I cannot thank you enough for always being a part of the pop culture.